this thing is going to get done, Houston's going to try to use as much leverage. I mean, everybody in the league also knows they want his guaranteed money off the books by the 16th, by March 16th. They want it done.
We are the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365 after a weekend getting ready, gearing up for free agency or legal light tampering today to get to free agency on Wednesday. Plenty of Birds topics for us to kick around. Certainly the quarterback position is still part of the conversation. Johnny Mac, I had a chance to talk to a different Johnny Mac, Johnny from down in Houston, John McMullen, on my CBS show on Friday night. And he gave me an interesting point of view on Deshaun Watson, because John's connection to the Texans is as good as any beat writer in the country. He's one of the best in the National Football League, right? They cover the entire league, but his sources within the organization are as good as there are with anyone else in the league. And he certainly said there is zero chance of mending fences in Houston. He just took that right on. Jody, zero. Not 5%, not 2%, zero. He will never play another game for the Texans. He wants no part of it, he being Deshaun Watson, and the Texans want no part of it. He said, but the Texans are going to get what they need to get in exchange for him. If you think Deshaun Watson is going to rule the roost and hold it over the Texans, that he will be the one who dictates where they go, and he will not be flexible with them. He said, the Texans will make him sit another year. Now, I'd never heard this before, that they were going to play very hardline, hardball with Deshaun Watson, that they're going to get what they want. If they can use one team's leverage against another to get a team to come up and get very close to the price that they want, then they'll do what they got to do just to get the deal over and done with. But if, let's say, Deshaun Watson decides he wants to be a Carolina Panther because he's a former Clemson player, and that he, just like he did last year, Miami or bust was his stance, and they actually had some traction on a deal with the Dolphins, but then the owner, the fruitcake Dolphin owner, came out and said, and get all the 20 of those lawsuits settled immediately. Then we'll get a deal
in
done.
10 minutes. You got 10 minutes.
Yeah, nice job there, buddy. But let's say he decides that Carolina is the place for him, even though Carolina could have been in the bidding last year, and he wanted
They
Miami.
were in the bidding. He wouldn't waive it for Carolina.
Right. So if you're not going to Miami because they've closed the door, which, as John McMullen likes to note, not under oath.
They can
close the door. You can open the door just as easily. So while Miami's out for this minute, they could get back in very easily. But assuming they are actually out, Deshaun Watson's going to have a number one choice, but that doesn't mean it's his only choice. John really emphasized this with me, that the Panthers were going to play somewhat hardball, and that they're gonna have a minimum price they're gonna need for Deshaun Watson. And if they're not getting it, they're not trading him just because that's the place that he wants to go. They would be willing to suck it up and have him sit for another entire year. Now, maybe this is them just wanting to get the message out, and John McMullen is a pretty damn good vehicle for it, that they're going to be as hardline as they are. But Deshaun Watson, the other thing John told me was it killed him to not play this year. That he was around the team. He didn't practice with them, but he was in the facilities, so you had a chance to at least witness him, even though he didn't talk to anybody because under advisement of his attorney, he didn't talk about anything. But from John's sources, it was absolutely killing him not to play. So if he wants to come back and play this year, not just sit and collect his check in Houston again this season, he's going to have some flexibility in his game, which brings the Philadelphia Eagles back into the conversation. Because one of the reasons, both you and I, but more so you've been harping on this, and you were right to do, Deshaun Watson wasn't coming to Philadelphia. Last year, prior to the season, when the conversations were being had, he just flat out said no, and he was going to be hardline and take his stance and say, you can't trade me. And he did sit out an entire year because of it. This is a different year and a different story. and the Eagles are a more viable option than they ever have been during the last 12 months.
Yeah, they're a more viable option for a number of other reasons as well. And we talked about the on the field stuff, and then Nick Sirianni, was sort of I don't want to say joke, but he wasn't well regarded after the Eagles hired him. And all of a sudden, he looks like one of the better young coaches in the league because, hey, guess what? Introductory press conference don't mean zilch, Jody, as you know. And then we talk about the development of Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. So there's more weapons than it looked like at this time last year in Philadelphia, and that would be helpful to a quarterback, obviously. It's interesting because I have heard what John said, that the Texans are going to use what leverage they have to not, have to take pennies on the dollar because Deshaun's only going to play in one spot. But, to me, that's a little bit of bravado for this reason. Because remember, if he doesn't play another year, and John's also right, and Deshaun wants to play. Deshaun knows he's got to get on the field because the longer you're off the field, the more questions are going to be developed. But also, there's diminishing returns from Houston's perspective. If they play hardball and say, "Okay, sit," and he sits for another year, and they blame it on the civil suits or whatever, and he sits for another year, guess what? You can talk about, well, he's still only 27, 28, whatever it'll be at the time. He hasn't played in 2 calendar years. You're not getting 3 first-round picks for a guy with all that baggage who hasn't played for 2 calendar years. It's going to be diminishing returns from their perspective as well. So this thing is going to get done. Houston's going to try to use as much leverage. I mean, everybody in the league also knows they want his guaranteed money off the books. By the 16th, by March 16th, they want it done. So
let me just interrupt for a second. You think that's happening?
I think there's a good chance it's going to happen.
I say no way.
I think it's a good chance you're going to get that bomb on right before the new league year. And what's interesting from the Eagles' perspective, the reports came out yesterday that now, and here's Houston using its leverage. Deshaun's willing to meet with potential suitors. He's willing to meet with Carolina. He's willing to meet with Seattle. I mentioned New Orleans. I don't think he'd have any issue with New Orleans. Cleveland is out of left field now. And, we also talked about how many suitors are going to – that might help the Eagles. More teams popped up. Because more teams are quarterback.
At least Tampa came out of the mix.
Well, Tampa.
That was one you got to put in the win column for the Eagles getting Deshaun Watson.
But it's only increased the value. So he is willing. So that door was kicked ajar, Jody. That door, he won't play here, was ajar. And yet you haven't heard a peep about the Eagles, which could be Howie doing his clandestine thing and waiting for the big bomb. Or it could be that they bought into this. I will say, I remember we talked about this and how fluid it is. Well, what if Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver? Tom Brady retired. What if Russell Wilson's out of conference? He did go out of conference, at least one. Oh, it could be wide open in the NFC. All of a sudden, boom, it ain't wide open anymore. You're still dealing with Tom Brady. You're still dealing with Aaron Rodgers. You're still dealing with Matthew Stafford. Okay, maybe you got rid of Russell Wilson. I am very surprised that the Eagles are not, storming the beach here. I am very surprised, Jody. I am very, very surprised.
But
and either they're playing it very close to the best. I thought they would have saw that door, and I thought, you talk about going all for it in free agency, I thought they would have kicked the door down to go all in.
Howie can be stealth when he needs to.
He can be, and that's why I leave that out there.
Here's why I would understand it if that's the case, but I'll also throw some cold water on my own line of thinking. They just came off watching the Carson Wentz implosion here in town. Because the coach decided to pull him with 3 games to go. Deservedly so. Let's get on the record about that again. I would have done it earlier. Carson Wentz was that bad. I would have pulled the plug earlier than Doug did. But Doug pulled the plug, and that imploded the whole Carson Wentz situation. And they had to trade him and take the $33 million cap hit. So if it's out there that the Eagles are aggressively pursuing Deshaun Watson and he doesn't end up here in Philadelphia, now you got a quarterback whose head is spinning in Jalen Hurts. They tried so hard to replace me. Now they want to turn around and make me the franchise guy. They don't really trust me. They don't really back me. The Eagles just been there, done that, don't want to do it again. And they're on record as saying Jalen Hurts is their guy. And then if they go hard after Deshaun Watson, don't get him, who's going to ever believe anything that Howie Roseman says? So I'll cut him some slack in that if he's doing it under radar, it's probably the smarter way to do it. But here's the one thing that if I was Howie, if it had to come out in the open that they're aggressively pursuing Watson, I'd be okay with it. Jalen Hurts is not Carson Wentz.
Nope.
Carson Wentz, we have found out, is a sensitive little psyche who can't handle anything going not his way. Any little hump he's got to get over, he stumbles and falls. Jalen Hurts is a strong-willed, in-charge leader, take the good with the bad kind of guy. If it goes down that way, you're not going to get the same results of, how dare you bench me? You must trade me, Carson Wentz's scenario. Jalen Hurts will roll with the punches. And he'll come back and he'll do what he'll have to do if he is the quarterback of the Eagles. So I think if this does become public knowledge that the Eagles are going after Deshaun Watson the same way other teams in the league are, I think they'll be okay with it because Hurts is as good as he is.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you with Jalen Hurts. It's not going to be effective. He's not going to be the shrinking violet. He's not going to fall into a bunk if it becomes public that the Eagles want Deshaun Watson and they can't get him, and it ends up they have to go with Jalen Hurts. So that to me is the most key point. I do think the Eagles should have learned something from the Carson Wentz issue. But again, everything is contextual in the fact it comes down to the players. They now know the player they have well enough to know it's not going to affect him. So it doesn't have to go down the same route when it comes to kid gloves and treatment. And by the way, Carson Wentz is not the only quarterback like that. There's more quarterbacks like Carson Wentz than there are like Jalen Hurts, to be honest. They're all, you've seen it now. You even seen it with Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. You know, he retires for 40 days. I mean, there's so much stinking drama around these guys. We've created this, diva. Everybody talks about divas and wide receivers. There's no more divas in the world than quarterbacks in the NFL. So Jalen Hurts is the rare one, not Carson Wentz.
Right. But here's the difference between Carson and some of the other guys you're referring to.
Well, they can play.
Aaron Rodgers had a hissy fit all last offseason. Didn't come into camp. Don't know if I'll potentially retire. I'll host Jeopardy. And then he came in and won the MVP.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz bitches and moans, gets himself traded out of town, and then goes and blows a playoff spot for the Colts the last couple of weeks of the season. There's being a diva and then talking the talk and then walking the walk. Carson talks the talk and falls flat on his face. That's a pretty significant difference, John.
Huge difference. But I'm just saying the environment creates the diva-like mentality. You're right. If you're going to be a diva, it's best to be Aretha Franklin than somebody playing, the Woodline Lodge at 12 o'clock on a Saturday night. So, if you're going to be a diva, be the best diva. But I always go back to a Jerry Seinfeld quote of all people, the legendary comedian, and he was talking about selling deals and making deals, and and he always said, and he's not the first to say it, but he said it's show business, it's not show friends. And that's the thing. And you might remember this story. I'll throw this out, Jody. When Larry Brown was here coaching the Sixers, the Larry Hughes draft, who was was darn good basketball player. Larry evidently had promised him and his family that the Sixers were taking him if he was there. And all of a sudden, Paul Pierce drops. And nobody thought Paul Pierce was dropping the Sixers at the time. Nobody. And for whatever reason, Paul Pierce started to drop, and Larry wanted to take him, but he promised Larry Hughes and his family that he was going to take Larry, and he stuck to his promise. It ain't show business. It ain't show friends, Larry. It's show business. And the Eagles can't get caught up in that nonsense. They can't get caught up. They love Jalen Hurts. They love the kid. They love him as a person, as a player, the work ethic, all the intangibles they always talk about. It's show business. It's business. It's business. It's business. I am stunned they are not storming the beach, Jody.
I was doing middays on WIP at the time with my buddy Glenn Macnow. And we talked about the draft all the way up until the draft, and came in the next morning after the Sixers did what they did. I had been talking up Larry Hughes. I thought that Larry Hughes was going to be a value pick for the 76ers. I had gotten some information that the Sixers, a.k.a. Larry Brown, were big fans of Larry Hughes. And sure enough, the Sixers take Larry Hughes. So we go on the air next day. Macnow said, "You got to be ecstatic. They took the kid that you wanted. You said Larry Hughes. They ended up picking Larry Hughes. Great job by you, Jody Mack. How excited are you?" I said, "Well, no, I'm actually kind of disappointed and ticked off." He said, "What the hell are you talking about?" I said, "I had no idea Paul Pierce was coming down the draft board to them. How did they pass on Paul Pierce for Larry Hughes?" So, yeah, so I remember it like it was only yesterday. I get your point. Your point is right that you can't let my point to Larry Brown should have been back then. I hadn't been partnered with you yet. My different Mac partner. You're not under oath, Larry. You say anything or make any promise you want, and then you need to do what's best for your organization, and that is take the best player. Who, of course, turned out to be Paul Pierce over Larry Hughes. That history is now well written. All right, one other Jalen Hurts point. Did you see this stuff over the weekend with Josiah Anderson?
About his social media? Is that,
yes.
That's yeah.
Yes.
That was
just stone cold ridiculous. I'd really like to know what she's got against Eagles. Because
I didn't even know she did it.
It was her.
Oh,
it was her who said, "Are you noticing that in Jalen Hurts' social media, he's putting down location Houston? Is there something afoot with a trade for Deshaun Watson?"
I didn't know, because a bunch of fans contacted me and said, "Did Jalen Hurts take Eagles off his social media?"
Right.
And I said, I don't pay that close attention to it. But I think because he's got those two, and I got to look it up. I don't think he's ever had Eagles on
never.
His Twitter
never.
account.
It's never been part of his social media. Now, when
hashtag untamed, hashtag rare breed, that's been up there for a while, and that was sort of some kind of I forget the marketing campaign he was doing. And yeah, I mean, he's from Houston.
Which Josiah Anderson chose to not acknowledge, and they were adding her questioning.
I assume she didn't know.
Of her own.
I mean, look, I don't know where every NFL player grew up. I happen to cover the Eagles, so I know where Jalen grew up. Sometimes you look it up, sometimes you don't. She probably didn't know.
If
I'm
you're
going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
If you're going to make a point of it via social media or on the air or in a column or whatever else, I think you're damn well responsible to look something like that up to find out that he's from Houston, that Houston has been his location on his social media profile forever.
Well, that I agree with. Yeah, you should go, "Oh, what? That's interesting." If that's the road you're going to go down, you have to ask yourself as a jerk, why are you going down that road?
She did, and she just assumed. She drew a conclusion. Ooh, Houston, Deshaun Watson. Is that why he's in Houston now?
Yeah.
Are the Eagles going to trade him in the package to get Deshaun Watson? She pulled two out of left field, and tried to come up with four and fell flat on her face.
Yeah, that's weird too, because she could probably call Nicole Lynn, who's Jalen Hurts' agent, and clear that up in about 10 seconds or text. I don't know. I don't know, Jody. Yeah, it's not good. I got bombarded with the Jalen Hurts movie. I'm like, here we go. Because I hate when players do that. Players have done that.
Kyler Murray just did it.
Yeah.
Took every mention of the Cardinals off his social media. And it started a firestorm.
Just get off social media for an hour. Just get off it. I mean, the only reason I'm on it is because we have to be on it as people in the media. And I've said this and watch, Jody. Whenever I hope we do, what show are we on? 231. I'm going to go 231.
This would
That's
be show number 230. 231 will
oh,
be tomorrow.
very close. I hope we're here doing show 1230. But whenever I walk away from this industry, you will not see me on social media. Period.
Really?
No, it's a cesspool of just awful people, and no, I won't. I won't go near it. Once I retire from this particular industry, maybe I'll look at it for news, but I'm not engaging with it. I mean, it's a waste of time. Nobody wants to hear information, actual facts. So number one, when that kind of stuff happens, so and so deleted his Cardinals pictures from Instagram. I'm like, what have we created with this? And I talked about divas, just stop it. Stop.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's my soapbox, Joe.
I'll never be able to get off Twitter when I stop doing this stuff too. I do enjoy the engage. Sometimes I can tell when someone goes to me if they're just looking to be an idiot and a troll, and I won't engage with them. But every once in a while, you get someone asking a legitimate question they can go back and forth with. So I don't think I'll be giving up Twitter. I'm hoping too that we get to the 1200 stage of shows. This is only 2:30. We got a long way to go to get there, Johnny Mac. We got a long way to go get to the end of the show today. Our buddy from Tip, and this is funny because I reached out to John yesterday and said, "What do you think? National stuff? How about Rob Monty tomorrow? See if he'd be willing to hop on."
Perfect choice.
And that was before Tom Brady retired. And Monty these days is on the west coast of Florida and does a lot of Buck stuff. He gets his back up to Philadelphia because he's an Eagle guy at heart. But those are the two squads he's on mostly, and we'll have Rob Monty next hour join us. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Brady and the effects it has on the NFC overall. Certainly, we talked about the quarterback market takes the Bucs out of the Deshaun Watson bidding, but there are other implications and other dominoes that will fall with the Brady return to Tampa. We'll talk about it next year on Birds 365.